Dobar dan, nedjelja, 8.2., novi dan za obaranje laži i mudrovanja lažova. Znači, za koga je radio ovaj Epstein, ovo pedofilsko čudovište? Idemo vidjeti. Samo jednu stvar bi još htjela reći. Vi novinari, danas, sutra, kaj biš rekao djetetu kad te dijete pita, čuj tata, zaki si lago na televiziji, zašto ste lagali o tim ljudima? Zašto ste dezinformirali ljude? Kaj ćeš reći djetetu? Zato što sam kukavica, plaćenička, da ne velim kaj. Sram vas može biti. Kakvi Rusi, kakvi Kinezi. Ajde više od sa tim lažima. I kaj su rekli da će ukinuti teletekst na našim televizijama tako da vas zaglupljuju još više i još jače. Ko je bilo ovo kopile?
He thought there was two cyber companies. Look out, and even though I know Peter, I've never met Peter Thiel. And everybody says he sort of jumps around and acts sort of strange, like he's on drugs. Smoking, yeah. He looks.
Ova setona, ovaj tu, ovo đubre, Ehud Barak. O njemu je pisala ona Virginia Giuffre, jadna, šta su ju ubili, navodno se ubila, nije se ubila, ubili su je te setone. U njenoj biografiji Ničija djevojka se zove knjiga. Njega opisuje ko posebno okrutnu zvijer, kaže da se toliko iživljavao na njoj da je bila sva krvava. Dijete od 16-17 godina. Evo.
However, he has a company called Palantir, P-A-L-L-E-N, T-I-E-R. Palantir is Peter Thiel's company, and look out.
Palantir, P-A-L-A-N-T-I-E-L?
Yes.
How do you write Thiel? T-H-I-E-L-L-Y?
T-H-I-E-L.
L-L-Y?
No. T-H-I-E-L-L.
Okay.
So he thought that Peter would put you on the board of Palantir. Peter Thiel is one of the best. I've never met him. He's going to come here next week. So I wanted to talk to him. After I talk to you, okay. He and Andreessen, it's called Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen Horowitz, they pay Larry $1 million a year. Just to advise them.
Andreas and?
$1 million.
D-R-E-E-S-O-N, Andreessen, at Horowitz.
And Howard?
H-O-R-O, Horowitz.
What they are? They're lobbyists. What they are doing?
They are the biggest venture capital people in Silicon Valley.
Well, bigger than Sequoia or Planet Perkins?
These are the new Kleiner Perkins. Everybody, these are the smart boys. So those two companies right away, in terms of, I said that we need now, in the next 3 weeks, if you're going to leave,
open up with that tonight. It's a lot of what we're going to be covering this evening on the show. I'm going to have trouble because I have so many tabs up, and I'm only just touching the surface of what I want to cover tonight. But got a lot of documentation, video, audio. I figured we'd open up with that one, and that is Jeffrey Epstein, who we're going to be talking about tonight. The first time I'm covering this, but I've been interested in this for many years. And it's really coming ahead with all these new disclosures and what's going on in Congress and Hillary Clinton speaking out today. So I figured I'd cover this, and I'm inspired by Brian from LTL. So let's make sure we give him a big shout out today. Because watching him do his coverage, I was like, I can do this. This is something I can do. And I'm going to actually use some of his video if it's all right with him tonight. But I'm posting his YouTube in the chat. He just passed me for subs. Congratulations to Brian. LTL, you beat Mike Crawford. You beat the Young Jerks. You just passed us in subs. Congratulations. I want to see you get more. Go way by us. I want to try to keep up with you. So make sure you subscribe to him tonight if you haven't already. And make sure you sub to us if you haven't. I want to see our numbers start going up again. His numbers are going up. The subs are going up. The views are going up. His coverage is amazing. It's great. Yeah, he's been killing it. Yeah, he's been going through the files. And the thing about the files, too, is the Justice Department is, first of all, the FBI put out some files a few months ago. I'm going to go through some of those. The new Justice Department files, though, they're released over the last, 3, 4, 5 days ago. Brian seems like he downloaded them all. He seems like he's got them all. I don't know. He's gone through different data sets. You can't even get them now. The Justice Department has shut it down.
Da,
They have a searchable database, which is
izbrisali
not
su
really
fajlove.
conducive for what we do. You get one document at a time. It's just, and a lot of the reason why they took it down is because the victims, the surviving victims and their families have complained that a lot of the information hasn't actually been redacted. That they've shown people's faces, they've shown minors even nude, things like that. So they've taken a lot of the documents down. It's a lot harder to get the docs now. I thought I had a way to get some more today, and I downloaded, but they seem funky. I'm gonna have to work on getting what Brian's got, which is all those data sets if I can. But I have a lot of other information too today. So there's plenty. I mean, we could be here all night. For probably the next year, covering how many documents have been shared and how many news stories, and so there's plenty to go around. But Brian's got the real good stuff. So make sure you subscribe to Brian over at LTL Media. All right. So this is the Prime Minister of Israel on a phone call with Jeffrey Epstein. And this is what we're covering tonight. I think people know who Epstein is. I don't have to explain to.
A kak to nije s Putinom na telefonu? A lažovčine lažljive u Hrvatskoj? Nije s Putinom, nego s Ehudom Barakom, premijerom izraelskim je ova pedofilčina na telefonu.
Much. But the question is, who is this guy working for? This is obviously a honeypot, extortion scheme, influence peddling. And this is where, I just want to say, I am not anti-Semitic. I love Jewish people. I love Jewish food. I love Jewish family, traditions. I almost wish I could be a Jew, honestly. I love the Jewish people. So I never want any anti-Semitism or any of that. If anyone even does any of that in the chat, you're gone, honestly. But Jeffrey Epstein definitely does lead back to the state of Israel.
No shit, Columbo.
And there's a lot of people pointing fingers at Russia too. And I'm going to say it right now that Mossad, which I believe Jeffrey Epstein is either an asset officially or unofficially was an asset of, and all intelligence agencies, they all work together. They do favors for each other. It's a big club. And I think that Jeffrey Epstein also did do things for Russia. I think he probably did some things for the CIA in America as well.
Di su dokazi? Za Mossad se zna da je radio.
Like him, criminals, will get a pass by all these different countries because they're actually doing things for everybody. But I think what you're going to see is that Jeffrey Epstein was with the Mossad number one.
Tako
Number
je.
one. And this is the Prime Minister of Israel.
Zašto ovoga nema u hrvatskim nijednim medijima? Da je ovo đubre dokazano radio za Mossad.
Guy in Israel, the Prime Minister. And Jeffrey Epstein is telling him the future, because these influence blackmail intelligence agencies.
S kim naš takozvani premijera nemični surađuje? Od ovakvih kriminalaca. To bi trebalo istražiti. Daj zamislite to, a? Frajer ima svoj otok na koji dovlači djecu od 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 godina di dolaze ovakva đubraca iživljavati na toj djeci. I to anemični podržava. Izrael i Ameriku. Znači Trumpovog pedofila, dokazanog pedofila i silovatelja i ovo đubre pedofilsko silovatelja. I ovo kopile ovaj Izrael Epstein koji je radio za Mossad. Snimali su sve šta su radili i tako cijenjuju tu gamat. Onog princ Andrew, Isuse dragi Bože. Znači, zemlja će ih izbljuvat. I upravo sada se to događa. Raskrinkavanje tih sotona koji su na pozicijama moći. Kroz prijevaru.
Have been doing these honeypot operations for years. But the new thing is technology. And if you own the technology, if you own the surveillance state, you almost don't need to do these honeypot operations, right? And he's pointing out who to actually talk to, because this is what Jeffrey Epstein was about. He was about science and technology. He was a complete spy and asset. Not only was he blackmailing, he was pointing to the future and saying, you're not going to need a guy like me anymore. You go to Palantir. And if people know anything about Palantir, they've been surveilling people for a long time now, used by police departments all over the world. When you get pulled over now, often the police departments will pull up Palantir software that you don't even know about, that they will never disclose. And they're able to look at your financial records, how much money you have in the bank, where you've traveled to recently with all the cameras. They are surveilling people. And there's a guy named Peter Thiel that he talks about, to the Prime Minister of Israel. And this is more of the same. This is exactly where this is headed. And you can see these billionaires like Peter Thiel, Jeffrey Epstein, they're all working together. Donald Trump, another one, with Bill Clinton. And that's why I put all three of their names up. I put all three of their pictures up tonight. This is not political. This is just real world stuff tonight. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, Independent, Green Party. If there's trash around you, we're going to talk about it. So tonight we're gonna look into Jeffrey Epstein a little more. Going to look at some of the documentation that ties him to Peter Thiel, that ties him to Israel, that ties him to the company Palantir, and Donald Trump and Bill Clinton.
A di su ti dokazi za Rusiju?
Yeah, the data centers in Northern Virginia. Miyamoto. Yeah. You know, I'm starting to use a little AI for some of our reels and things like that. You know, we're starting to get into that. We just got like 500,000 views on one of our reels on Facebook, like in the last 24 hours. And that was AI generated. People think that that's what AI is really about, is creative, and there is some of that. AI, I believe, is twofold. Number one, it's going to replace a lot of the white-collar workers, just like outsourcing replaced a lot of the blue-collar workers. The manufacturing, now they're going to go for your creative, your professional, your accounting, your attorneys. They're going to go for all the white-collar jobs with this AI. That's number one. And number two, it's going to be used, the best thing it's used for is surveillance, gathering large data sets and bringing them all together. This is what AI is going to be used for, surveillance. The surveillance, they're using it in China against their own citizens. The police departments are starting to do this with Palantir, a private corporation that you can buy on Wall Street. Yesterday, when this news came out, Palantir has been like a high flyer. I actually own some of the stock, and I've been selling it off because it's way overvalued, I believe. But it could go way bigger because of how much surveillance they want to do. It's a question of how far will we let them get away with it. And I've been selling the hell out of it because I bought it when it was way down. And I want to get rid of it because I don't like the company. And I feel dirty owning it. And I made a killing on it, so I might as well just sell it and get rid of it. But yesterday, it's funny because I sold it right in the morning. And then all of a sudden, it's like it caught up to them. People just woke up and said, oh my God, this is the company that is doing all this horrible stuff with Epstein. And the stock dropped off like 10%.
Tako je, bravo.
Yeah, I want to check it today, but that was yesterday. It crashed.
Tako radi, tako
And I sold it in the morning
Bog da.
right before it crashed.
Tako je.
But Jesus, this company Palantir, we're going to talk about Palantir tonight. I'm going to share this one. This is a story from Council Estate Media. It says, no, Epstein was not a Russian spy. He was an Israeli one.
Tako je. Jeste čuli ovo dobro?
It's interesting because a lot of the corporate media is now claiming he's a Russian spy.
Ne, nije.
He did things for Russia. He definitely helped Vladimir Putin. He had a guy that he talked to directly that had ties to Vladimir Putin. He was definitely advising him.
Židovi
But
iza
this
toga
right here,
stoje,
this is the
lažni
biggest lie.
židovi.
This is what's going to happen right now, too. Right here. For a time, we were told that there was no evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself.
Aha.
FBI Director Kash Patel told us there is no credible information, none that he trafficked to other individuals. That is such bunk. That has been so provenly, so convincingly disproven at this point.
Lažovčine, proklete, satanske.
Yeah, now suddenly, now the media is realizing that he was actually running a honeypot scheme, like everyone knew the whole time. But they're finally admitting it. But they're saying he did it for Russia and not Israel. This is a big lie right here.
A,
This is a big lie. He was doing it for Israel.
tako
It's not
je.
even a question. This is from councilstatemedia.uk. And they have a lot of documentation right here. He's basically in the emails talking about that he works for Israel over and over and over again.
A lažovčine hrvatske, lažljive, pogane. A na misu idete nedeljom. Puh! Sram vas
And
može
this name
biti.
keeps coming up. Ariana D. Rothschild.
Rothschild.
And there she is emailing him.
Nevjerojatno. To su antikristi na vlasti. Satone.
And she gave him tons of business. The Epstein's finances were managed by Lynn Forrester Rothschild. And there she is right there. With Epstein and Ghislaine.
Unbelievable. Fuj.
And these are the real people who run the world.
A,
This group of people.
još te uvjeravaju, nemoj vjerovat svojim vlastitim očima, vjeruj nama.
Kroll Associates. Douchebag.
Douchebag, da.
Look at him hanging out with Deepak Chopra. Yeah, and this is the thing about all of this. Kash Patel, the FBI need to be brought before Congress and answer some questions about this stuff. Like, where's your report, dude? Like, you just dumped all these documents, but you have come to no conclusions. We want to know. Epstein was working for Mossad. What are you doing about it? Have you
Ništa.
searched the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico? Have you dug up and see if there are any children's bodies and things like that out there?
Užas.
This guy, everybody needs to be brought before Congress. Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton,
Tako je. Svi.
Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, all of them need to be, Deepak Chopra. They dumped all these documents. A lot of the documents, too, if you look through the documents, some of the documents actually show that they just throw anything against the wall. They're giving us everything, including things that are probably false allegations, which sucks. A lot of these people, some of these people that are named in the Epstein files are going to be falsely accused of shit because crazy people will send an email to the FBI and accuse famous people of stuff. But there's a lot of names that keep coming up over and over and over again, and you know that they were connected. And the people that he did business with, who are still alive, a lot of them are, but the model agencies, the Wexners, all of those business associates, they need to all be brought before Congress. All of them. It's so much to look at. It's hard to even know. You know what? One thing I want to look at right here. Bring this up. Thomas Massey. This guy has been a hero. He's a Republican who is basically the one who was spearheaded and been against his own party to get the Epstein victims some justice. And he's been working with them, brought them before Congress. He got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Bobart and Nancy Mace to go along with him. And he's pointing out the spending bill. Now, we've cut SNAP benefits, we've cut all this stuff from Doge, right? We cut foreign spending, they said. But now they're passing a spending bill that wants to give trillions of dollars. Trillions and trillions of dollars to Israel. $3.3 trillion available to Israel. $3.3 trillion. You know how much? I'm worried about my Social Security. I don't know about you guys. The price of gold going up, and the price of silver, and the price of everything going up, and the debt. If this country goes belly up on the debt, we don't get Social Security, guys. We don't get Medicare, and they're giving $3.3 trillion away, and $1.4 trillion to Egypt. 1.6 billion to Jordan. This is just unbelievable, the spending. The spending is out of control. And that's what this is all about. This is why people get blackmailed. A lot of these politicians have been bought by Israel and Russia, too. Pretty clear. I'm going to play this one.
Mr. Speaker, Thomas Massey and my Epstein Transparency Act led to millions of files being released that have shocked the conscience of the nation. Today, I call for Congress to hold in front of the Oversight Committee every single person who emailed about going to Epstein's Island. They need to answer some basic questions. Who raped these underage girls from working class families? What did they see? What did they know? What did they participate in? The American people are frustrated with the rich and powerful getting a different set of justice. There cannot be two tiers of justice in America.
Niti u Hrvatskoj, jer jasno? Jer ti jasno, Plenkoviću, anemični 30 tvojih ministara, kriminalaca i onog Beroša, onu Sotonu si vratio na posao. Gotovi ste, ja ti kažem, gotov si, majstore. Nećeš šta hoćeš, ne.
And I will not rest until the people who committed these heinous crimes and this heinous behavior are held accountable.
Tako je.
Who were they working for? That needs to be another question. Are they working with the Mossad? Did the CIA let them get away with this? Bring in Peter Thiel, too.
Tako je.
I want to show something, too. This is the masseuse list. Can I get that up on the screen? Hold on. Why did it not go away? Hold on.
Ovakvim ljudima, to slušajte ljude koji su istraživački novinari. Amateri, svejedno. Ljudi koji istražuju, koji zanima istina. Ne ove demagoge s televizije. Gasi to smeće, čovječe. Kakav Thompson, kakve gluposti, ma užas jedan, fuj.
I got too many files up. Too many docs.
A nemični vam se ruga da ste Južna Koreja.
People probably already seen it, but I thought this one was
Elita se ruga, budeš se rugo, ne buš dugo.
Yeah, basically what you have is pages. Oh, it only shows the first page on this one. But if you look at them, they have a masseuse list. And it's over 100 names there. It's over 100 names. You know these are all young women who are victims. Hundreds and hundreds of names. I gotta check in with the chat. I haven't even looked at the chat. I've been so amped up. How am I doing?
Znači, kaj su radili? U taj Mar-a-Lago Trumpov, to njegovo carstvo, izmišljeno, Epstein i ova njegova kuja, ova Maxwell, znači njezini roditelji su radili direktno za Izrael. Ona je radila za Mossad i za Izrael. Ona je podvodila te djevojčice od 13, 14, 15 godina, glumeći da će im srediti posao u agenciji za modele. I takih je navlačila. Misliš žena, uređena, bogata, upoznat ću te sa čovjekom koji je utjecajan, koji ti može pomoći u karijeri, kako si lijepa, šteta je da tvoj talent propadne. Tipični grooming zlostavljača prokletih, to su sotone. Znači ciljano targetiraju te djevojčice i dječake da bi ih uvukli u svoju zlostavljačku mrežu i tamo ih zlostavljali. Tak da, gledajte, takve stvari su se događale u Hrvatskoj i sve je zakopano. Znači u Osijeku su se iživljavali suci tamo na onim djevojčicama iz popravnog doma. Šta je s tim? Jeli? Šta je s tim?
Doing tonight? Sarah says, nice to see you back on stream, Mike. It feels good. I'm doing double duty today. I'm getting warmed up for tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, big show with Judge Carol Erskine talking about DCF.
To sam htjela reći. Znači, moja školska prijateljica tako je odvedena u Njemačku sa 17 godina kao radit će u kuhinji. Njih dvije radit će u kuhinji. Kad su došli tamo, uzeli su im pasoše i morali su se prostituirati. To vam je to. To je ova đubrad radila. Dobili su te curice tamo da rade u spa, da masiraju te stare pederčine, da ih zadovoljavaju i baš je jučer sam slušala svjedočanstvo od jedne koje sa 16 godina taj Epstein ju je, znači silovali su ju, zlostavljali su ju, užas jedan. Njeno ime je izašlo van u fajlovima, što se nije smjelo dogoditi, jer je ona žrtva svjedok. Eto, to vam je to.
I'm happy to see some of our shorts are going viral on YouTube, it looks like, and especially Facebook. And I'm happy to see some people on Facebook following us now, checking us out a lot more. Yeah, this is the big problem. This is a good point. Three-click Monty. What you see so often is the senders, the people who are the perpetrators. Their names are blanked out, but the victims often aren't. So the DOJ really fumbled this in terms of protecting people. Yes, I did get a haircut. I got a very short haircut for once. I like it. Everybody so far has liked it. So I didn't even know about this one. The 250 million. It's like, oh, drop in the bucket. I don't even know about that one. This one right here. Epstein had the resource, politicians, judges, law enforcement, and Spotskin, and the intelligence services, which have so much power. I don't think people realize how much the spy agencies, whether it's CIA, Mossad, or even some of the like the French ones, the MI, the English, and especially even the Russians. Like, think about that. Think about the top like 15 countries in their intelligence. I mean, even like Turkey. Like Turkey, you wouldn't think Turkey. Turkey has like a scary intelligence group. Like all of them, all of those major nations have these military intelligence spy organizations, and they have enormous power over what happens in this world, and we don't see it all the time. And this is how they do things. And the Mossad are like one of the strongest and hardcore about it. And I understand why. Because they're the minority, they're a small population, and they're very successful, and they're I find, great people. And we saw what happened to them in history, so they're going to be more hardcore about protecting their interest. And this is what's going on.
Nije
And
se,
it's not
ovima
that,
se ništa nije
I'm
dogodilo u
not
povijesti.
anti-Semitic
I to
at
su
all.
lažni
Not
židovi.
at all. I love Jewish people, but this is about the state of Israel and America and independence and just horrible shit that goes on with these intelligence agencies. And if you don't think the CIA is doing the same type of shit in other countries, they sure are.
Itekako.
And, the only way it's going to stop is if people expose it. That's my thing. I think it needs to be exposed. I think people need to know reality of what actually is happening in this world.
Tako je.
And how much money that they have.
Razotkrivaj dijela tame.
Because they control the spending in America that goes to Israel.
I to mi financiramo, by the way. I Ukrajinu. I njihov rat tamo. Židovsko-američki. Za zemlju. Black Rock i tak dalje. Ko kupuje zemlju po Ukrajini? Black Rock američki. A? Ko kuha frku?
I'm going to skip the masseuses. You know what I want to... I want to play this a little bit... This is Katie Johnson's full testimony of February 11th, 2016. It's a video that's online. And I'm just going to play some of the audio from it. You put it up on the screen. Actually, I'm going to do one thing first. I get worried about copyright on some of this stuff, but I think it'll be fine. I'm going to do though. Again, I'm putting up Bill Clinton on the screen with Jeffrey Epstein. But a lot of what this woman's talking about is Donald Trump, actually. And that's why I put them both up, because this is a non-partisan issue.
Pa gle đubre, gle ovo. Ljigavce, gle ljigavce. Stari vampiri.
Some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump. I was 13.
13 godina, dijete, ej, 13 godina.
Was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance. And he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job. And
Fuj.
at first I wasn't very comfortable with it. This was like my first party, and I didn't think that was my responsibility. But my recruiter told me that I needed to do it. So I agreed to. And then he, I began to. Sorry, this is a little difficult, but before I gave him a hand job, he kind of slapped my hand away and said, "You need to use a glove." And the recruiter ran over and handed me a glove and said, "No one touches Mr. Trump's penis without a glove." So I needed to use a glove.
Da Bog da ostao bez tog penisa ljigavog svog đubre.
Immediately after, he had an orgasm, he left, and I didn't see him again at that party. Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire friend of Donald Trump's that was responsible for throwing the sex parties. There was, I originally came to New York trying to be a model, and in my travels, I met a girl named Tiffany there, who was very interested in me and said that, that's what she did, is that she helped girls, get what they wanted, and she could help me get into modeling, that she knew a lot of people that were higher ups, and that it would be no problem. And so that's why, but I would just basically have to come model at a couple of events and meet some people. There'd be no sweat. So, of course I went, that sounded like no big deal. And she was recruiting the girls to come to these parties. And they all looked, most of them were, my age. There was, maybe a couple girls that were maybe 14 or 15, but it seemed to me like we were all very young. So.
Strašno.
Okay.
Jeffrey Epstein knew that I was 13 years old. When he interviewed me, he asked me to get down to my bra, just my panties, and I thought that was weird, but modeling, maybe it was something about my figure. And he asked that I give him a massage. And then he asked me my age. He asked me, and I told him, told him that I was 13. I told him why I was there. And he basically said, well, you'll do, I'm sure that you'll fit pretty nicely here. And then he tried to basically slip himself inside of me.
Užas.
God, I think that's
Užas.
enough at this point, right?
Ja ne znam, jeste vi ljudi uopće svjesni koliko je ovo odurno, koliko je ovo duboko, koliko je ovo sadistički. Na djetetu od 13 godina se zlostavlja đubre prokleto koje djede može biti. Ja ne znam, jeste vi svjesni dubinu tog zla koje vlada svijetom. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, kojeg je žena ostavila radi toga, upravo radi ovoga. Bill Clinton uhvaćen s onom Monikom Lewinsky, idiot, koji su mu postavili, kreten, kompromitiran do kraja života. Znači, svi ti glavanje, Ehud Barak, princ Andrew, bankari, glumci, Hollywood. Znači, sve se zna, ljudi moji, sve se zna, ljudi nisu svjesni dubinu toga, dubinu trauma tih žrtava.
Wow. That just... Oh my God. The thing is, you're starting to see people resign from major positions over this today.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring up the Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton made a statement today on Twitter.
A Buras, ti si sporiji od mene, eh?
Hillary Clinton, this is the Hill. Hillary Clinton presses Comer for public hearing instead of Epstein investigation deposition. So basically, here it is. He says, if you want this fight, Rep. James Comer, let him have it in public. You love to talk about transparency. There's nothing more transparent than a public hearing. Cameras on. We will be there, she says on Twitter today. So basically, Congress, Rep. James Comer, has been trying to get Hillary and Bill Clinton to do a deposition before Congress. And it looks like, they've been going back and forth. A lot of people expected that they would never testify about Jeffrey Epstein, that they would plead the fifth, and they still could. They could plead the fifth on certain questions. But Hillary Clinton called their bluff today. It was like, let's bring it on. Let's have it in public. Let's do it. And if James Comer doesn't have it in public, come on. This is what all of them need to be, in public. It needs to be in public. If you need to protect victims ahead of time and figure out ways that you don't disclose victim information, I get it. Work it out with the witnesses.
Mhm.
Give them some ground rules. Make sure your Congress people know the ground rules so that they're not doing it themselves. But these need to be public. These hearings all need to be public. I want to see it for Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Peter Thiel.
Elon Musk.
All of these people need to be brought up. All of them. Every single one of them. It needs to be public. I thought that was interesting today. Bring it on. Make it public.
Da, bring it on. Ak nemaš kaj skrivat.
What else do I want to show today? I don't want to go through too many documents because my eyes, honestly. So I'm gonna make this a little shorter. You know what I want to do right now? This is Brian LTL. Did I pin him in the chat? Let me make sure I pinned him in the YouTube chat at least. No, I didn't pin it. All right, let me make sure I pinned Brian. We'll do that first. My glasses right again. Here we go. Make sure you're following Brian. All right. Let me make sure I pin it in the chat. All right, we have that pinned. Wait, no, I pinned the wrong.
Glotak. Čulo sam da su govnari htjeli kupiti u Hrvatskoj otok neki. Ako već nisu. Ljudi moji, ovo ne smijemo dozvoliti u Hrvatskoj, ovaj sotonizam. Ne smiju se širiti tu, kupovati zemlju po Slavoniji. Evo, već su preuzeli Plivu. Šta se s Gredeljem događa? Ko će preuzeti njegov posao? To će biti zanimljivo za vidjeti. Evo di se derpani iživljavaju na djeci, koja nemaju kud pobjeći. To žele u Gazi napraviti, zapadnoj obali, ovo tu. Raj za pedofila. Pedofilski raj. Evo sam htjela pokazati kako se pedofili skrivaju u Izraelu. Evo ga, gledao. Kako se židovsko-američki pedofil skriva u Izraelu. Pa gledajte kako oni skrivaju. Evo gledaj, accused pedophile seeks refugee in Israel. Da bi izbjegao optužbe. Pogledajte ovo. Znači Izrael je raj za pedofile, ljudi moji.
Loophole. So, he's 6'2".
We are on a stakeout looking for this man, Jimmy Julius Caro, 48 years old and wanted on charges of sexually assaulting a 9-year-old girl in Oregon back in 2000 and a 5-year-old girl in Israel in 2001. He's considered dangerous. But these photos are a few years old, so we don't know if he'll look the same. He remains elusive. Previous attempts to capture him have failed.
Obviously, the fear that he would somehow figure out that anyone's looking for him and bolt. He just called his number.
Shauna Aronson got a tip that Caro's expected at this clinic near Tel Aviv.
Who's gonna call?
She's with JCW, Jewish Community Watch, an organization that hunts down accused pedophiles who flee to Israel from the U.S., exploiting a process called Law of Return, whereby any Jewish person can move to Israel and automatically gain citizenship. The ease with which pedophiles seem able to use this law as an escape route haunts victims like Mendy Hawk, who says he was abused from age 8 by a teacher at an Orthodox Jewish school in Los Angeles.
So your classroom is right here. How does it feel being back?
I was very anxious and, stressed coming back.
8 godina ima kad ga je đubre zlostavljalo,
Memory of his
pedofilsko.
alleged abuser, Mordechai Yom-Tov, who taught him Hebrew studies when he was just 8 years old.
Podučavao ga je hebrejski. Pazi ovo.
Outside of my pants, and then I would say about 3 or 4 months later, he started going again.
Reaching down your
Yeah,
pants.
it's reaching down.
Why did you feel like you couldn't tell anyone?
I was scared. I was ashamed. I just didn't want people to think of me with the whole situation.
Yom-Tov pled.
Idemo dalje.
She's with JCW, Jewish Community Watch, an organization.
Samo malo. Runaway pedophiles inside Israel.
Hello and welcome to Inside Israel. I'm Mariam Azasher. Today's program contains alarming information that is growing reports concerning child abuse. It has been discovered that American pedophiles of Jewish background have found a safe haven in, you guessed it, Israel. A new report by the US-based Jewish Community Watch states that many of these pedophiles flee to Israel to distance themselves from the hands of justice. The following report contains more information on the topic, which I must warn you in advance is disturbing.
A new report by the US-based Jewish Community Watch says that many accused Jewish pedophiles in US flee to Israel to escape justice. The report adds that many of the accused go on to abuse children in Israel as well. Jewish Community Watch is a US-based organization that tracks accused pedophiles. It started tracking accused pedophiles in 2014. Since then, it has identified more than 60 Jews who have fled from the US to Israel. According to CBS News outlet that also investigated the issue, the actual number is likely much larger. Jewish Community Watch said that it happens across the wider Jewish community, including in the modern Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox communities.
Treba li išta više reći? Samo malo, idemo dalje. Kad već snimam toliko dugo. Evo vam.
The jail, then it's still a cover-up. And
now you know why the Trump Bubba thing makes sense. Now you know why the Trump Bubba blowjob makes sense. Right. Because at the end of the day, they all diddy party together, don't they?
Right, and if you do anything that prevents the files from coming out, if you do some things, because right now they're doing everything they can, right? It passed with flying colors. People have pointed out, I thought it was hilarious, that it somehow went from, oh my God, we can't release this, and it's a hoax, and this and that, and now it's like, okay, we have to release the files, we're going to investigate everything, because now they're going to use the investigation, quote-unquote investigation, as a pretense to redact information that is critical to whether it be the victims or the perpetrators or now national security.
Yeah, the Democrats are going to expose it to a certain amount that hurt.
Da vidimo šta govore o nama.
It is a supremacist religion in that way. I mean, they refer to themselves as chosen people. And
čekajte da stavim na hrvatski. Kako nas nazivaju? Ha, gojim. Pa nema većeg gojima nego njih. Znači, rade sve što im je Bog zabranio u Tori. Pogotovo lihva. Lihvarenje, ma fuj, znači pa to nema veze, ova takozvana država Izrael, pa to nema veze sa Izraelom od prije 3000 godina. Gdje Jahve je trebao biti njihov Bog, zapravo, on je cijelo vrijeme nazivao Izrael svojom zaručnicom, koja je uvijek ko kurva bježala, okretala mu leđa i lice drugim bogovima. Znači, žrtvovali su djecu, vlastitu djecu su žrtvovali Moloku. To danas rade, evo, to vam je ovaj talmud. To vam je ovaj prokleti satanistički, znači ovaj Izrael je sjedište Antikrista. Od tud Sotona djeluje. Preko Amerike. Definitivno. Kroz ove talmud rabine. Znači, oni njih uče talmud. To je Antikrist koji govori da je Isus Krist bio kopile, a Marija kurva. Jer vam treba išta više. Jer vam treba išta više reći. Pa daj čitaj Bibliju dok još možeš. Jer će ju nazvat antisemitskom knjigom. Čitajte si poslanice, ljudi. Poslanice apostolske čitajte. Čitajte evanđelja, šta je Isus govorio o takvima. Upravo ta Sotonina sinagoga naziva. Sotonina, pa zato su ga ubili. Kaj mislite zakaj su ga ubili? Koga je ubio? Upravo i farizeji židovski. Jer je došao i, kak je rekao ovaj dečko, novi šerif je u gradu. Koji im je smeto. I kaj su vikali, buni narod, želi nam uništiti hram i svetište. Tražili su od rimskih vlasti, ubi ga. To vam je to.
You know, Zionism is really about racializing Judaism. So yeah, I mean, that is a particularly malignant strain of what we're talking about. But no, it's absolutely an arrogant religion.
We have special guests with us. Keaton Weiss from the Due Dissonance is here. You know him, you love him. He's our favorite guest host. Hi, Keaton, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing? Good to see you. Hello.
So I wanted to bring on a Jew.
Yes.
Because of what I found we all found in the Epstein file.
The Jew? You want to bring in the Jew?
I want to bring
in the file.
Yes, you need the right Jew for this. I am the Jesse Lee Peterson of Jew.
In the file.
Yes, you need the right Jew for this. I am the Jesse Lee Peterson of Jews.
Can you tell me what is a woman? All right, here we go.
So you love God?
Do you love God?
You love God?
Do you love him? Do you love God? I love how he just keeps asking the same question over and over.
Yeah, he's great. He's the best.
He's kind of Scientology's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is from Jeffrey Epstein to a guy named Roger Schenck. And he says, Jeffrey Epstein says this is the way the Jew make money. And made a fortune in the past 10 years selling short the shipping futures. Let the goyim deal in the real world. From shipping news, the most dramatic growth has been in shipping futures, which allows shipping companies to lay off risks. The most popular futures are forward freight agreements to deliver goods, in particular, the route some of the blah, blah, blah. They have grown in the past year to roughly the size of the physical market, according to Bill Lyons of the Baltic Exchange. In shipping in London, many of the industry have been suspicious of such futures because they've been averse to hedging their bets. Risk-taking is, after all, part of the game, and averse to complicated financial instruments that they do not really understand. So and then Goyim were born only to serve us. Without that, they have no place in the world, only to serve the people of Israel.
Wow. Who wrote that, Ted Cruz?
That's
That
is Sephardic leader Rabbi Obadiah Yosef.
Rabin, evo, kaj sam vam rekla.
Of the Shah's party, said that in 2010. So here's a little bit... I mean, it's nice to have a purpose in life, but, you know,
mamu ti gojim
my purpose in life is to do all the hard work while another group reaps all the benefits. Isn't that something?
Vidjet ćeš ti koje gojime.
My Jewish ex, where I did all the work like a goy.
So this is from the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, established in Sephardic leader Yosef, non-Jews exist to serve Jews. So that there it is.
Jer vam
Goyim were
jasno o
born
čem se
only to
radi.
serve us. Without that, they have no place in the world. Only to serve the people of Israel. He said during a public discussion of what kind of work non-Jews are allowed to perform on Shabbat. Why are Gentiles needed? They will work. They will plow. They will reap. We will sit like an effendi and eat, he said to some laughter. Yosef, the spiritual leader of the Shas party and the former
To
chief
sve
Sephardic
pohapsi treba.
rabbi of Israel, also
Sve
said
pohapsi
that the
treba.
lives of non-Jews are protected in order to prevent financial loss to Jews.
Sve ih pohapsi treba, čovječe.
Shout out to Joseph, by the way.
In pit of hell ih bacit,
That these guys not only didn't have anything to do with the building of the pyramids, but they probably brought contractors in and didn't pay them at the end of the job. Why?
Yeah, I've long said Mexicans built the pyramid. It's illegal. Venezuelans. Nicaragua probably.
So Peter, this guy Petre, says just replace Goyim with untermenschen, and it's impossible to distinguish Zionist ideology from Himmler's comments on the master Aryan race and the justified enslavement of all the subhumans. What kind of idiot says this comparison is illegal hate speech? All Zionists, whether ideological or transactional. And I am afraid to say also significant numbers of anti-Zionists of the secular Jewish and or Trotskyist kind. So let me just, what is
Užase,
this?
pa ovo je nacizam, fašizam, ono.
Shed any light on this? Is this the way just Zionists think? Or is there a certain sect inside Zionists that thinks this way? Is it why people refer to the Jews as the Jews this way? Because I know, the Jews I know don't, as far as I know, don't think this way. You and Russ don't think this way, right?
Right. Well, there's a spectrum. Like in my experience, there's like a spectrum of it. So, you know, I grew up, the Jewish half of my family, which is really the only half that I spent much time with, since my mother is Maltese Catholic, but most of her extended family lives in Malta. I've not met most of them. So when I would go to family events, it was always a bunch of New York Jews. I mean, and we were kind of like liberal, secular Jews. We're not like serious practicing Jews, but it is a culture to a large extent. And the way this language is used, there's kind of a range. Like there are certain words that we used to use casually without thinking much about. So like schmuck is an example of that. You know, schmuck is a Yiddish word. When we would refer to someone as a schmuck, it was kind of a term of endearment. We didn't mean they were like a bad person or that we hated them.
Like the N-word.
Right. And the schmuck. But apparently there's like a range because so the way we used to use
there's a race of schmucks. Did you just really?
No. I said the way I said there's a range, not a race. No, a range. A range. There's a range of schmucks. So like the way we used to use the word schmuck was like, for example, like my father and I were helping a relative move. This was years back. And, you know, he packed the moving truck full of shit that he did not need at all. So we're out there at the moving truck and we said, can you believe this schmuck packs a broken lamp to move? He didn't just throw it out, right? We're not saying he's like a contemptible, despicable person. He's kind of a likable putz and oaf, you know, whatever, a doofus. But there were times like later in my life where I would be in conversation with people and I would refer to someone else. I would say, oh yeah, that guy, he could be a real schmuck. And they're like, why do you say that? You know, it'd be very serious. Well, why would you call him a schmuck? You know, like I just called him a real slur or something. And then I explained what I meant by it. And then I looked it up and it turns out like, yeah, you can use it the way we always use it, kind of casually as New York liberal secular Jews, as like a term of endearment. Or you can use it to mean like a truly despicable person. Now, Goyim was always the same way in terms of my understanding of it. It was a little more severe since with Goyim there is that sort of like racial or religious or tribal aspect, since Goyim refers to non-Jews, whereas a Jew can be a schmuck or a Gentile can be a schmuck. But Goyim, you are not Jewish if you're Goyim by definition. And so, you know, we would refer to the Goyim, it is like a term of ridicule, but we never thought of it as like a particularly vicious or mean-spirited term. We would mean it as sort of a joke. Like one of the phrases we would say about non-Jews, we would say, okay, this guy has a goyish cup. goyish cup, meaning a Gentile mind, cup meaning, head or brain. So a guy with a goyish cup, like if we were meeting people for dinner in New York City and they were not Jewish and they paid to park the car across the street from the restaurant, we would say, oh, look at this guy with the goyish cup paying $30 to park.
Even if it was a Schwartz?
Yeah, meaning, he's got an inferior mind. Look at this goyish cup paying to park. He doesn't have the brains to do what we Jews do, which is drive around the city for 45 minutes seething in anger. And then parking 15 minutes from the restaurant and having to walk half an hour in the rain to get to the place. That's what a savvy Jewish mind would think to do. And look at this goyish cup parking right across the street. So, yeah, I mean, that is a little bit more tinged, right? Like, there is obviously a little more hostility there since it's like a tribal speak. But I didn't realize how offensive
I oni
it was
pričaju o
to
antisemitizmu.
non-Jews to call them
Mrš!
goyim, until I started like interacting with people, basically until this whole, I should say, set of revelations.
This whole Mishigash?
Which is that, until this whole Mishigash came to light, where it turns out we kind of are ruled by, a cabal of illiterate Jewish pedophiles. And so I could see how, it doesn't really hit, it does kind of come off as nastier than intended. But yeah, like growing up, like we would use these words not really mindful of how they are received. Schmuck is the milder version of that. Goyim is the more severe version of that. Like the first time it actually really occurred to me that something must be up with the word goyim. There must be more to the word goyim than I'm picking up on. There's an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David is trying to get accepted into this like waspy country club. And Susie, Jeff's wife, says, they're never going to let you in with that big Jew face of yours. They can see you coming a mile away. And Larry says, why are you saying I have a Jew face? He says, your face is much Jewier than mine. He says, my face is much more Gentile-y than yours. That's what he says. And that kind of like, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there is something to the word goy that's offensive because Jews would not say that. A Jew would say, I have much more of a goy face than you. They wouldn't say I have a more Gentile face than you. If Jews were talking about that, they'd say, no, I have a goy face. They wouldn't say they have a Gentile face. So that's when it first kind of occurred to me, maybe Gentile is more offensive, maybe goy is more offensive than a word like schmuck. Like maybe that is received as a slur. And now, given the fact, given that we are living in a time that is so obviously dominated by Jewish supremacy, I understand now how people could be, taking offense to the word goyim. And certainly the way Jeffrey Epstein uses the word goyim, the way it's used in these files, I mean, I can see people
if it's any
being put off by
consolation
that.
to Gentiles, these people worship Baal, and they hate Jews just as much. It's like how Aleister Crowley didn't like Christians, even though he's Christian growing up.
Right.
So that's why they're using it. My Jehovah's Witnesses, I would call both of you worldly. That's our outgroup word.
Right.
If I were a Mormon, I'd call you a Gentile. Right. Or if I was a nicer, non-racist Jew, I might call you a Gentile. If I was a Gypsy, I'd call you a Gaji. Everybody's got their outgroup word, so I never took offense to it until I realized maybe the idea that a race and a religion are the same thing might be the problem here.
Right. Well, yes, of course.
Because my best friend Big J, a godfather to his daughter, and he's Jewish, and he don't like anybody being anti-Semitic at him, but he's not a reform. You know what I mean? He doesn't do Shabbat candles or something.
Right.
And if he did, they've included, because the Zionists included everybody, a separate sects of people who actually have kind of different beliefs depending on where they're from.
Right.
They made this myth that you all love Israel, it's all the same thing, even though nothing could be further from the truth. And the history is as messed up as America's almost. Well, Jew-to-Jew relations over there.
Right. Yeah. No, so it definitely is something that I became more aware of as I got older, and not just as I got older, but as I got more politically conscious. Like one of my old friends from high school, he was like one of the OG 9/11 truthers, which meant he always had a very strong critique of Israel. And when I would like jokingly refer to people as goyim, on Facebook, I mean, this was back before I really did anything, political outside just like talk shit on social media. You know, he would talk about how offensive that was, and I always just thought he was being a little dramatic because he was, in fairness, that was his nature. That was his nature. But I have come to realize how, yeah, that I understand totally how that is not received very well now.
So, but can you talk to the culture of them feeling above Goyim? Anybody who's not.
Oh, yeah.
So anybody who's not a Jew, they look down on, right? And it's,
100%. No, I mean, look, it is
racism,
it is a
right?
supremacist religion in that way. I mean, they refer to themselves as chosen people. And, you know, Zionism is really about racializing Judaism. So, yeah, I mean, that is a particularly malignant strain of what we're talking about. But no, it's absolutely an arrogant religion. And as a, I can say this, I guess that's why I'm here. It has become a very toxic culture, I think. And I think that the last couple of years have really revealed Jewish culture to be a very toxic one. And, you know, I say that as someone who kind of grew up in Jewish culture. I have a Jewish sense of humor. A lot of my favorite people, are Jews. But, yeah, no, there is absolutely no question about it, a culture of arrogance and supremacy. No doubt about that.
You think it has to do with maybe people being billionaires in something called a mega group? And also the fact that there's a bunch of these rich people, so your reform, you don't care about it, right? The religion itself. But there's a bunch of people that, like, hate it, and they're like, but they have a racial feeling they're better than people just for that. And they got some real twisted ideas. And I've been around Jews. You know, people haven't been around Jews. Jews are like a cryptid to them. They have no idea. They have, but I've just been around Jews my whole life, and it's like another kind of Guido at the end of the day.
Right.
You know?
So you...
No, that's totally true. Like, I worked as a tour guide in New York City for years, and, I could always tell how my jokes were going to go down by looking at the crowd when they check in. I'm like, all right, are these people... Am I the first Jew these people have ever seen? If yes, then I'm going to probably just play it straight and not try too many jokes. If not, I'll go for some jokes.
So when you say it's a toxic culture, the Jewish culture, would you, like, what percentage, like, I wouldn't think that you and, say, Russ are part of that culture, right? Or are you?
Well, I mean, I think we've definitely, I think we have, like, innately absorbed a sort of gallows humor that is part of Jewish culture. Like, I'm not saying there's nothing redeemable about Jewish culture.
Correct.
But I think, people like Russ and myself and Max and Aaron and Katie Halper, all the people in this space, all the prominent anti-Zionist Jews in this space, I think, I don't want to speak for any of them, but, I would assume that, we are kind of taking stock of this in a way that we really hadn't before. I know I certainly am. Like, I wouldn't really minimize, like, the, words like Goyim the way I do anymore. And Russ and I were talking about this on the show yesterday, about how, one of the things, I mean, Russ, referred to this, he says, one of the really tough things about the past couple of years is that it has sort of made Jewish culture kind of toxic, because, a lot of Jewish humor is humor of self-deprecation. And this is why we always said Zionists aren't funny, because Zionist Jews, view vulnerability as weakness. To me, like, you can't be funny unless you're vulnerable. You can't be funny unless you're willing to make fun of yourself. And so you have to have a certain vulnerability about you in order to be funny. And Zionism views vulnerability as weakness and weakness as sin. Right? And so they can never make themselves vulnerable, which means they can never be funny. And so, I don't think, like, that part of Jewish culture has gone away. But, yeah, I mean, I would say that there has always been a certain arrogance embedded in it that kind of does remain.
I'm going to play this from Candace Owens' show. I think this was from Tuesday. And I just want to get your reaction to it, because she's reading a book that kind of talks about. So I didn't know anything about. Kurt talks about how these people worship Baal. I don't even know what that is.
There's a woman pretending who I believe her actually, but she claims to be Epstein's niece, who's been talking about them. She said they worship Baal or Baal, and then these files come out. He's got a bank account labeled Baal.
And what is Baal? What is that?
It means, well, they'll tell you it means Lord, but it means master, I would say more accurately. And in the Bible, that's who the Israelites were always told to kill, these Baal worshippers. And you'll hear people that say the Bible's bad for this because of genocide. They called those kids Amalek, Bibi and them, which is pretty despicable. The Amalekites were disgusting. They should go. They were all pedophiles, actually. and so this religion is sacrificing your kid for material gain. And understand that the Israelites were captive. I don't know, before the Second Temple, they're captive in Babylon. So that's where we get the Babylonian Talmud and Kabbalah and all that. That's the mysticism. So I don't think it's that arrogant because I was in a religion where we were right. And I'm like, why would you be in the thing if you're not the people that are right? Why would you even bother to be in it? So everybody has that. But the ones that are esoteric and mystical, that's the ones that are steering the ship. And so my friends that I've grown up with who are just like anybody else I know, who don't really want this label laid on them for stuff that people that are into dark shit are doing. And that's what when you meet people that are bad, they take advantage of it. You've watched people use their ethnicity as an excuse in every goddamn race there is for all of history. And so the original, that's why woke died on October 7th, because that's when Sarah Silverperson had to be like, oh, BLM did say they support Hamas up front. They were kind of honest about that. They just didn't listen. They were arrogant. It's like that Vermont liberal that doesn't. Remember, Zionists were not. They were atheists. There's a lot of socialist shit in there. They're not people that were right wing at all. They used to have a left wing that I guess is strong in Israel, but now it's all these Likud terrorists. So these are gangsters. And much the way Tony Soprano, I would say, is not a good Catholic. I would say these are not good Jews. They're not following Torah, I can tell you that. They're following Babylonian Talmud, which is a little darker and more incestuous and racial.
Sure, no, absolutely. But like I said, there are gradations of it. A story that Russ has told before, and I'm probably not remembering all the details exactly right, but he talks about when, this was decades ago, at a bar, and there's, a bar fight breaks out.
Ne, nije to bilo, nije to se sad događa. Evo, kao siluju IDF, vojnici siluju zarobljenike u zatvoru. Zastrašujuće. Evo ga. Pogledajte ovo. Gledajte ove satone, gledaj ovo što rade čovjeku. Snimljeno s kamerom. Skidaju ga i siluju ga. A? Sveti narod. Izabran Božji narod, a? Nećeš više, Sotono, nećete vi više narativ okretat, majku vam miloje. A ne. A ne. Prokleta stoka odrna. Satro vas Bog sve mogući. Fuj, đubra dodorna sotonska. A ovo je žena koja je dobila otkaz. Odvjetnica IDF-a. Glavo. Uhićena je zato što je objavljen video gdje ovaj đubrad palestinske zatvorenike siluje. A? Kaj velite na to? Sveti narod. Idemo dalje. Pa nećete vi prodavat nama muda pod bubrege, čovječe. Evo ti Robert Maxwell. izraelski špijun, to je otac od ove kuje koja je podvodila djecu. Izraelski špijun. Kaj tu nije jasno? Evo. Bio je izraelski špijun koji je pomagao stvoriti Epsteinovu mrežu.
She was the one that was really hands-on running the network. But he was also a spy for Israel and...
So Maxwell's dad was an Israeli spy.
Jamie Dimon with J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan just gave
I Mossad ga je ubio,
$290 million.
starog majmuna.
Let's talk about Maxwell. How did she play into everything? What was her role?
Well, she was the one that was really hands-on running the network. The logistics person. I interviewed an Israeli spy, Ari Ben Menashe, on my podcast. And, you know, he's a spy. It's difficult to know if he's telling the truth or not. But, okay, so...
Kako neće
her
prebaciti glavu?
father, Robert Maxwell, had a publishing empire. But he was also a spy for Israel and Russia and the UK and probably the US. And he had this huge publishing empire. And what he did was he went into the retirement funds of his employees and stole them all.
So Maxwell's dad was an Israeli spy.
Yes.
Who was running logistics for Jeffrey Epstein.
No. So he was a spy, for sure, and then he had a huge publishing empire.
But his daughter
and
was running logistics for Jeffrey
Epstein, yes.
Who has been named by government officials that he's untouchable because he's in intelligence.
Yes.
So there's a line
There's
right
a nexus there, yeah. And Maxwell had a yacht called Lady Ghislaine, which was named after his daughter, Ghislaine, who was his favorite child. And he jumped off one day, and he had a very mysterious death, much like Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the cover story on it is that, I mean, because it did come out that he'd ripped off all these, the retirement funds of all these employees. I mean, millions of dollars. I mean, he destroyed all these people. I mean, a guy obviously didn't have a conscience. And Ghislaine Maxwell supposedly then came to New York to get away from it. And then that's where she met Jeffrey Epstein. Now, according to this Israeli spy that I interviewed, Robert Maxwell put Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein together. And they were together even before he died, before his mysterious death. Some people think it's suicide, some people think it's homicide. I mean, it's a very strange death. So somehow Maxwell and Epstein got together. And the story is that Epstein had the money and Maxwell had the connections. And I think that there's some truth there.
And this guy was a spy for the Israelis, the UK, and possibly the US, and I believe you named another one.
And possibly Russia, yeah.
And do all these countries have people involved in this trafficking ring?
With Jeffrey Epstein, it's really difficult to know. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was active in Europe, for sure. He was actually buying. I mean, we're not talking renting. He was buying young girls in Eastern Europe.
Da.
Buying them like slaves.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, how evil that is.
We've covered this.
Kak je Melania došla u kontakt s njima, huh?
But I believe you mentioned something about were there members in the UK government involved or within the royal family?
Okay, so definitely Prince Andrew was part of. I mean, he was pandering. Epstein was pandering girls to Prince Andrew, and who is a thoroughly repulsive human being. I mean, I did some research into him, and anybody that ever worked for the royal family loathes Prince Andrew.
What was he into? What was his deal?
He liked underage girls. That was his thing. But he's just a nasty, foul human being. I think a lot of the people in the royal family are probably nasty, foul human beings. I think Andrew is...
Ljigavi, odvratni. Ana je dobra.
An Israeli military intelligence officer happened to stay at Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan apartment on at least 3 separate occasions, and that's according to a new report from Dropsite News. Now, Epstein may have even wired money to him, once again raising questions about Epstein's alleged ties to Israeli intelligence networks. Alleged. Now, Dropsite compiled some of the evidence for this story from former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak's hacked emails.
To je ta satona.
So we have that.
Ehud Barak.
Super interesting. In addition to Epstein's personal schedules, which were in fact released by the House Oversight Committee. Just last month. Now, the intelligence officer that we're referring to here, that was reported by the Dropsite News story, is a man by the name of Yoni Koren. Yoni Koren, Israeli military intelligence officer who stayed at Epstein's Manhattan apartment on at least 3 separate occasions. And here's what we know about him. He started his career in the...
Čekaj. Pa, kaj se ne zove ovaj tukaj u Hrvatskoj Geri Koren? Treba malo istražiti ko je taj lik.
Research division of the IDF's military intelligence directorate, which is called Amman. And he eventually rose through the ranks to become a senior officer. Now, in 1985, Koren worked on a covert campaign with Mossad to help Syrian intelligence kidnap PLO operatives traveling from Cyprus to Lebanon. And he also worked very closely with Israel's former Prime Minister Ehud Barak. He did so for years while serving as his chief of staff, while serving as the chief of staff for the IDF, managing his schedules and his operations. Now, Barak's friendship with Epstein has been well documented. You know, we actually have images of him entering Epstein's apartment. So we've known about that already. But he did... So that's well documented. He met with Epstein dozens of times. He flew on Epstein's jet and once visited the infamous Epstein Island. We're talking about Ehud Barak here. Now, one of the times Koren stayed at Epstein's place was while he was working as a senior aide to Ehud Barak. Now, after Barak left the IDF, Koren headed his staff as interior minister, then foreign minister, and then after that, defense minister. And the details here are super interesting. After Barak's retirement, Koren was a covert fixer in Washington who enjoyed special access to senior national security figures, I'm sure he did, including Leon Panetta and his senior advisor, Jeremy Bash. As soon as Barak left the Israeli government, Koren became a key go-between.
Sekunda. Geri Koren, Hrvatska. Izraelski veleposlanik, imamo potporu Hrvatske. Ne, nemaš Sotona potporu Hrvatske. U moje ime ne. Veleposlanik Izraela, Geri Koren. Ko je taj lik? Ko je taj lik? Nitko ne prijeti Hrvatskoj. Pa kaj ti imaš pričati to? Pa daj, gubi se tamo, čovječe. Gubi se od kud si došao. Nemaš potporu Hrvatske. To je taj. To je taj. To je taj. Ne, nisi dobro došao. Milanović te ne želi, predsjednik te ne želi, fuck off. Gubi se tamo onaj svoj genocidni Izrael. Cionistički. Gdje je biografija njegova? Glava, nigdje biografije nema. Ko je taj čovjek? '59. rođen, mjesto rođenja Riga, Latvija. Čisti Židov. Izvanredni i opunomoćeni veleposlanik. Pazi ovo, zamjenik glavnog ravnatelja Ministarstva vanjskih poslova u Jeruzalemu. Od 2019. do 2022. Veleposlanik države Izrael u Ruskoj federaciji, u Češkoj republici, Haifa, Eurazija, bivši Sovjetski savez, ravnatelj odjela, veleposlanik države Izrael u Latviji i Litvi, zamjenik ravnatelja odjela za Euraziju, bivši Sovjetski savez, savjetnik u trajnoj misiji pri UN-u Ženeva, prvi tajnik za Sovjetski savez, Moskva, jezici, hebrejski, ne pričaš ti hebrejski, to je jidiš, a ne hebrejski, ruski, engleski, francuski, češki, latvijski. Obrazovanje, magistar političkih znanosti i studija nacionalne sigurnosti. Šta radiš ti u Hrvatskoj? Počasni doktorat iz područja upravljanja sigurnošću i kriminalistike, Policijska akademija Češke republike. Čekaj, majstore, nije to, nema tu uopće vijesti o njemu. Geri Koren, samo malo da vidimo straničke vijesti. Ambasador Izraela u Hrvatskoj od 2022. Iranske rakete mogu dosegnuti Južnu Europu. Ajde ti odjebi, neće iranske rakete dosegnuti Južnu Europu. Iranske rakete će vas razoriti tamo, samo krenite. Samo kreni. Šta širiš tu svoju propagandu? Da vidimo. Ma kakvi? Ništa konkretno. Šta on radi u Izraelu? Ništa konkretno ne možete naći. Ovo je špijun. Ja tvrdim da je on špijun u Hrvatskoj.
For Barak and the American and Israeli intelligence communities. So let's get to...
Ej, taj Geri Korev nam je bio u ovoj sekti Riječ života. Zajedno sa Primorcem. Kao kandidatom HDZ-a za predsjednika. Ali mu nije uspjelo. Znači, Primorac, lik koji je 90-ih istjerivao ljude iz stanova u Splitu, onda je pobjegao zbrisao je van, fol studirat. I sad glumi tu nekakvog domoljuba. Pa kaj ste vi ljudi normalni? Pa to je izdaja kakve nema. Izdaja kakve nema, sudit će vam povijest. Sudit ćemo, mi ćemo vam suditi djeca branitelja. I sudimo vam.
To the email records and what they show, because apparently they show that Barak was using Koren as an intermediary to exchange information with Amman. Koren was also active in Epstein and Barak's efforts to source cybersecurity startups from the technology research units of Amman, demonstrating how enmeshed in Israeli spy networks he remained. So now let's get to some details about his stays at Epstein's Manhattan apartment. By the way, are you guys seeing the intertwined nature of Mossad and the CIA, and the fact that they had a relationship with Epstein in the first place? So, that child trafficking that took place wasn't part of a blackmail operation. Are we stupid? I'm sorry. I don't believe anyone who tries to pour cold water on the fact that Epstein was running a blackmail operation. It's so obvious.
Da.
I mean, how else do you explain the unwavering commitment to Israel, regardless of who's in charge in that country, regardless of the political makeup of the Knesset, regardless of what type of atrocities Israel is carrying out,
Genocid.
regardless of how much money it costs the American taxpayers and how much it destroys the economic health of this country to keep up with this charade? No, there are...
Znate kaj mi je sad jasno? Sad mi je ono što rade, znači što Mossad radi, želi zakuhat, napraviti umjetni neprijateljski odnos između kršćana i muslimana. Nemojte padat na to. Sad mi je jasno zašto muslimani su govorili da je Izrael veliki vrag, a Amerika mali vrag. Jer to je, ljudi moji, to su činjenice. Znači, Izrael vlada preko te pogane usrane Amerike, preko banaka, preko prodanih političara, kao što su naši ovdje tu. Oni drmaju kroz banke i kroz ove pogane gadove koji su prodali dušu Sotoni.
American politicians and elites in the US, powerful, influential people, who might be pedophiles and do Israel's bidding because they don't want that information to come out. It's just so obvious, guys. It's so obvious. But anyway, let's talk about Corin's stays at Epstein's apartment. So Corin was also active. So let's talk about the first stay. The first stay at Epstein's Manhattan apartment was back in February of 2013. So this was when he was working as Ehud Barak's senior aide. Now, the following year, according to Epstein's personal calendars released by the House, Corin stayed at Epstein's spare apartment again for the first 2 weeks of October 2014. The calendar released by the House committee reads, reminder, Yoni in apartment September 30 through October 13th. And then in the weeks preceding his stay at Epstein's apartment, Corin maintained contact with spies in Amman, despite his supposed status as a private citizen. And then there was his third stay that we know of. There might be more, but in terms of the reporting we're seeing from Dropsite News, they were able to identify 3 separate occasions. Let's talk about the third one. His third stay at Epstein's apartment was for 10 days in September. That's a long time. It's a long time hanging out with a freaking child sex trafficker and pedophile, but that's what this guy was up to. Epstein's assistant, Leslie, wrote an email to Corin, essentially informing him that she had reserved an apartment for him for 10 days. And then Corin responded, that's what you're looking at here, with, thanks a lot, send my regards and thanks to Jeffrey. Obviously, he's referring to Jeffrey Epstein there. Now, during all 3 of his stays in Epstein's Manhattan apartment, Corin appeared to be conducting official or unofficial business on behalf of Ehud Barak. So let's talk a little bit about Ehud Barak. Because in February of 2015, a few months before Corin's third visit to Epstein's Manhattan apartment, leaked emails show that Ehud Barak was actually sending Epstein bank details for funds that were to be wired to Corin's Citibank account. We have the evidence right here. Let's take a quick look at that. There it is. That's the email. Obviously, the account numbers and all that have been redacted. But it's from Ehud Barak to Jeffrey Epstein. Hi, Jeff. That's the info. Then you have the account number. Dropsite could not determine the purpose of the wire transfer or confirm whether or not the funds were successfully sent to Corin. All we know right now is that a former Prime Minister of Israel got into contact with Jeffrey Epstein to provide bank account details of an Israeli spy so Epstein can wire money to this individual. Okay. But the bank transfer information was followed by an unusually cryptic communication between Barak and Corin regarding handoff of a physical bank card. The two had a pretty good reason to communicate in coded language because documents leaked by Edward Snowden just over a year prior, revealed that the two men were major counterintelligence targets for the United States, and the NSA had been snooping on their messages. Did they know? I mean, did our intelligence community know that they were spying on an Israeli? Like, you don't do that. They get to do whatever they want, including here on U.S. soil, with a disgusting, disgraced child sex trafficker and pedophile. So this is Drop Site's fourth installment in its series about Jeffrey Epstein and his ties to Israel. So far, they've exposed quite a bit, including Epstein's role in brokering a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia. They've also identified Epstein's effort to set up a back channel between Israel and Russia during the Syrian civil war. And they also showed Epstein's role as a key facilitator of a security agreement between Israel and the West African nation, and a West African nation that I'm not going to try to pronounce because I'm going to mispronounce it. And their reporting throws a wrench in the government's official line that Epstein had no foreign or domestic intelligence ties, obviously. Like, who would believe our government on this issue in particular? I wouldn't. I wouldn't at all. They're either being blackmailed or bribed, and they're not telling us the truth. Our media launders Israel's reputation. Our media lies to the American people about what Israel's actually up to. Why would we believe for a second that our government, which has been in bed with the Israelis, would ever tell us the truth about a guy who was very likely running a blackmail operation and his ties to the Israelis? Because guess what? That wouldn't be a good look, right? It wouldn't be a good look for Israel, and certainly it wouldn't be a good look for the United States either, since we're obviously involved in this. If literal minors were being trafficked with the main purpose of getting blackmail on powerful people, whether it's in this country or any other country, you're literally exploiting children, minors, to be raped, so foreign governments can have dirt on powerful people? Okay. Meanwhile, Mike Johnson said the Republicans are doing everything they can to prevent the Epstein files from being exposed. So he didn't say that he's doing that, but Mike Johnson's behavior has made it clear that he and the Republicans are doing everything they can to prevent, like, real transparency.
Republikanci, takozvani kršćani evangelici, da se zbljuješ, koji štite, znači, pedofila, koji su pedofila doveli na vlast, koji je to otpad, koji je to septička jama, koja je to rupa, fuj, znači govna su sva isplivala na površinu. Odvratno.
About the Epstein files, he's refused to swear in Democratic Congresswoman elect Adelina Grijalva, who would serve as the final member needed to force a vote on the release of the Epstein files. And in Marjorie Taylor Greene's recent conversation with Megyn Kelly, she wondered whether the Epstein issue was the real reason Mike Johnson refused to convene the House during the shutdown, the government shutdown. Take a look at that.
Everyone, for how many years now, all of us have been calling to release the Epstein files. And Thomas Massie entered a resolution to release it. Yeah. And I'm a co-sponsor. I want to release the Epstein files. And it's been blocked over and over, unfortunately. I tell you what, I've started to question, is this why we're not in session?
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to have that suspicion. I know that I've certainly had that suspicion. And today, Mike Johnson, again, House Speaker, called the House back into session. So we'll see if he immediately swears in Grijalva as promised, or if he continues to block a vote on the Epstein files. I'd bet on the latter. But who knows? He might prove me wrong. I hope he does. Israel's involvement with Epstein is disgusting. And the fact that our government is trying to cover this all up is even more disgusting.
Da.
Every time you ring the bell.
Da.
Let's move on to the the financier, who was also mentioned in her diary. And the financier I'm referring to is investment banker Leon Black. So this next graphic will show you what I mean when I say that she writes in code. It's not really code. So let's take a look at the next graphic, graphic 7. It's another poem that she titled Stopped Dead. And right next to the title of the poem, you'll see the name Leon Black. That's the way that she would write in code, right? Instead of writing from the left side to the right, she would like write words up and down like that. Okay, so she mentions Leon Black there, but that wasn't the only time she mentions Leon Black. Let's go to the next one. So she met Black in New York City in 2000, and he was introduced to her as Epstein's special friend. So this is directly from her diary entry about this. And decoded, it says the following. Even though Ghislaine said it was best to take me home because Mr. Black is so important for some reason, my health, this is going to be hell to pay. Or there is going to be hell to pay. I ruined their trio, and I am dramatic. When that fat F bit me, he threw me on the floor and got blood all over Jeffrey's carpet.
Ehud Barak
and I am the issue. Who the F bites someone sick? No one is that important, and Leon can go F himself. I hate New York. So there had been some reporting about this a few years ago, actually. So in 2023, I came across this Newsweek piece about allegations made against Leon Black. And I'm going to read you the excerpts. Black retired from his investment firm Apollo in July 2021 after a review found he paid Epstein $158 million for financial advice between 2012 and 2017 after the pedophile's criminal conviction. Interesting. So as I read that piece, it did make mention of one of Epstein's victims accusing Leon Black of biting her in her private area to the point where she bled.
Yeah, so there's even more harrowing stuff in there about the nature of that particular rape. About how she was expecting that he was going to be like Epstein.
Ma to treba smrtnu kaznu I gotovi smo. Smrtnu kaznu uvezi, to je gotovo.
Whereas Leon Black slammed her on the massage table, according to her, so hard that it knocked the wind out of her, and then he started ripping her clothes off, bit her, and she started screaming, and he would constantly cover her mouth. And
prokleta čudovišta
now,
satanska.
Guys, in terms of how do you judge this one, you know, first of all, everyone makes their own judgment.
To je Ehud Barak ove Virginiji jadne radio.
But $158 million. Well, he says it was for financial advice. Wait a minute, Leon Black is one of the top financiers in the world. If you need financial advice and you need to pay $158 million for it, no one would ever hire you again.
That wasn't for financial advice.
There's no way in the world that one financial guru asks anyone else, or let alone Epstein, for financial advice and pays them $158 million.
Čovječe, znači $158 miliona je ovo kopile, ovo đubre pedofilsko dobio da bi podvodio djevojčice, a to se vodilo kao financijsko savjetovanje. Nikakvo financijsko savjetovanje, đubre je dokazano kupovao je djevojčice, znači po Europi i tamo po Americi onu jadnu djecu zlostavljao. Nikakvo financijsko savjetovanje nije u pitanju, nego seksualne usluge. Platit ćeš za ovo đubre jedno. Isus Krist je rekao, dirneš li u jednog malenog, bolje ti je da si objesiš onaj kamen oko vrata i baciš se u more, sotono prokleta.
No. So you have a good sense there. And by the way, Leon Black is, in retreat over this, and he quit Apollo over that.
He should be hanged for this.
If it's true.
Prosecuted, okay, we still have a justice system, but he should be investigated, he should be prosecuted, and if convicted, let's bring back public hangings. By the way, I don't know if people know yet, but let me be abundantly clear. I have changed my stance on the death penalty. I think in some cases, the death penalty makes sense. This is a perfect example. And it should be public, it should be on the town square. hanged in front of the public. That's what I want to see.
If it's true.
If it's true.
If it's true, and then, you could argue about whether that's the right form of justice. But I would love any kind of justice, especially given the last year.
Watch the pig squeal. Anyway, final thing that I'll mention here is, the Epstein files that were just released by the DOJ did a terrible job in redacting the names of the victims who wanted their names redacted. They were assured their names would be redacted, but they weren't. And so what I found really fascinating...
Ne znam da li se sjećate slučaja Marka Franciskovića, kad je izjavio da bi ovog, kak se zove ona bivša komunjara, ona pijandura udbaš, Ostoja Ranković, kad je izjavio da bi njega i Kosoricu trebalo objesiti na trgu Bana Jelačića. Kad su mu namjestili ludnicu, čovjeka su u ludnicu strpali, prisilno su ga liječili pod navodnicima, drogirali su ga, proglasili da ima šizofreniju, znači namjestili su mu. Tak da svaka ti čast, Ana. Slažem se s tobom. Ovakve dokazane, ove špijune, pedofile koji su se iživljavali na ovoj djeci, treba uvesti smrtnu kaznu. Apsolutno se slažem s tim i sve veleizdajnike koji su radili na štetu države i naroda, to treba maknuti iz društva, eliminirati. U Hrvatskoj se ima sprovesti lustracija pod hitno. Ne zanima me nikakav Tuđman i njegovih ovih 100.000 ili koliko već preokrenutih kaputa iz Komunističke partije Hrvatske, koji su postali odjednom HDZ-ovci. Idete lapa pa, moj otac je stvarao ovu zemlju. Moj otac ju je stvarao. I pozivam sve vas koji ste bili 90-ih srcem i dušom za Hrvatsku, koji ste stvarali ondašnji HDZ kao pokret, Hrvatsku demokratsku zajednicu, Hrvatsku demokratsku, ne zajednicu, nego državu. Sjetite se, ljudi. Sjetite se, ne dajte da vas ta gamat pokori. Ovaj anemični je 2011. ušao u HDZ na poziv Vlajsavljević Kosor. I ti ćeš biti procesuirana zajedno sa Vesnom Pusić. Samo polako, Mrak Taritaš i tako dalje i tako dalje. Nova Hrvatska će vam suditi, već vam sudi. Ja vam sudim.
Was that while the victims weren't protected, the predators seem to have been protected, including this person who sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know who it is. We don't even have their name. They just simply wrote, I am in China. I will be in the U.S. second week of May. To which Jeffrey Epstein responded, where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video.
Yeah.
I think the public deserves to know who sent Jeffrey Epstein a torture video. And more importantly, what happened to that person? Where is that person today? Was that person ever investigated?
Okay, and where's the video? Because we know there were videos. We know that there was cameras in every room, including the massage rooms. And now our government tells us, oh no, golly gee, we can't find any of the videos. And then we have legacy media doing
prokleti
nonsensical stories about,
djecu su ubijali. Snaf vide se snimali.
Had a camera, but we don't know that they taped anything. Oh, come on, please. So now people are starting to have a little bit of despair here and significant anger, because they're saying, well, okay, our government obviously doesn't work for us, because they knew all of this for decades, and they covered it all up, and it didn't matter who you voted for, they all covered it up. So I don't want to hear any crap about Democrat or Republican on this. All of them are guilty.
That's right.
Everyone that was ever in the executive branch that had any information about this, you all covered it up, and it's super obvious why you covered it up, because it involves intelligence agencies. But now you turn to the national media, and they're like, intelligence agencies? No, the only country being mentioned is Russia. Are you kidding me? If you read the files, it is nonstop. Israel. Even in this story, randomly, an Israeli doctor shows up. Not a Russian one, not a Bulgarian one, not a Thai one. It's constantly Israel. But I don't know. The reason I bring that up here is I don't know if that's why the media is like shush.
That is why.
But look at these atrocities. So the government says under no condition will we serve the American people. We will serve the monsters who did this. And then our media comes in and goes, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, whatever, shiny objects, scores. Okay, go get all the sons of bitches. I don't mind that at all. But you're not talking about who organized this. It is obviously a giant organization. They send women all across the globe to some of the most powerful people on earth. And the mainstream media wants us to believe that there was no organization. It was just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell just walking around. And they never mention Ghislaine Maxwell's connections to Israeli intelligence. They never mention
isto u Hrvatskoj, iste sotone, nevjerojatno, fuck off, majmuni, pa nećete nas ušutkat.
These are horror stories. And so how horrible are the people in charge that they know this happens and they make sure we never find out about it. And what did they use the blackmail for?
We know.
Every time you ring the bell below,
Evo ga, mislim da je dovoljno rečeno. Ljudi moji, ne dajte se nasanjkat, nemojte pušit ove narative s ovih lažljivih televizija. Nikakvi nama muslimani nisu neprijatelji. Tako da stvara se, znači žele napraviti diviziju među ljudima. Moraju fabricirati neprijatelje da skrenu pažnju sa sebe. Izrael on stoji iza svega. Izrael i Mossad, CIA, FBI, UDBA u Hrvatskoj, UDBA u Srbiji. U Srbiji i u Hrvatskoj infiltrirani su, znate kaj, infiltrirani su sve rupe. Goldstein, taj Gary Cohen, kaj radi on u Hrvatskoj? Kaj radiš ti u Hrvatskoj? Koliko ih je još u Hrvatskoj tih špijuna? Mene to zanima. Šta radi SOA? Šta radi sigurnosna obavještajna agencija? Koga vi to puštate u Hrvatsku? Kome vi dozvoljavate da se financira iz državnog proračuna pod krinkom crkve i radi zločine protiv djece, pedofilija, gospodarski kriminal, zlostavljanje, tužakanje po sudu, slab tužbama? To sve vi dozvoljavate i platit ćete za to. Ja ti kažem, platit ćete za to. Ja kao kćer hrvatskog dragovoljca i zapovjednika prve zaprešičke bojne Ivana Šimićeva, ja vam to obećavam. Ja ću vam suditi i ja vam sudim. Ja vam sada sudim. Pozdrav.